Bread is more than just a side on your plate. It's history, nutrition, and sometimes controversy. In Canada, the shelves are full of options, but not all breads are created equal. Today, we're slicing through labels, recalls, and ingredients to show you 7 Canadian bread brands to avoid and 2 that are genuinely worth your money. Get ready for a loaf-by-loaf deep dive so you can be more informed to make better choices. And sandwiches. Produced by Wonder Brands. Incorporated, Wonder Bread is designed to deliver extreme softness, uniform texture, and extended shelf life. While this may be appealing for many consumers, it also reflects specific formulation priorities that health-conscious shoppers often question. Most Wonder Bread products are built primarily on refined, enriched wheat flour. Refining removes bran and germ, the components that contain most of the grain's fiber. Although enrichment restores certain vitamins, fiber loss still remains a significant problem. Nutrition research consistently associates higher fiber intake with improved digestive health and better blood sugar regulation, all of which Wonder Bread cannot promise, as it typically provides lower fiber density compared to other whole grain products. To maintain softness and longevity, Wonder Bread also adds preservatives and dough conditioners like calcium propionate and emulsifiers. Although these ingredients are legal and widely used across the baking industry, you would want to avoid their products if you seek minimally processed food and shorter ingredient lists with fewer additives. Another consideration is its nature of large-scale industrial baking itself. Centralized ingredient sourcing means upstream issues, such as supplier contamination, can affect multiple brands simultaneously. Hence, Wonder products have appeared in precautionary recall contexts in the past. So if you choose Wonder Breads for daily consumption, you basically have to choose between shelf stability or ingredient simplicity. And now you know that softness in bread might be compromising your fiber intake. In 2021, bread sold under the Westview Bakery name became the subject of a Canadian Food Inspection Agency recall after inspectors discovered a labeling problem that carried very real health implications. The multigrain product, Crosta bread, was found to contain sesame seeds that were not declared on the label. Imagine eating bread and suddenly breaking out, because that's exactly what some faced. For many consumers, sesame might seem like an ordinary ingredient, but in Canada, sesame is classified as a priority allergen, meaning it must legally be disclosed because it can trigger severe allergic reactions. For individuals with sesame allergies, accidental exposure is not simply uncomfortable, but can lead to symptoms ranging from hives and swelling to potentially life-threatening anaphylaxis. What makes recalls like this particularly important is the role of labeling itself. Consumers managing food allergies often rely entirely on ingredient lists for protection, so when an allergen is present but not disclosed, the label stops functioning as the sole safety guide. The CFIA issued the recall as a precautionary measure, advising consumers not to consume the affected bread. Incidents like this don't automatically signal widespread danger, but they definitely highlight the negligence on the company's behalf and little to no consideration of customer safety. In May 2019, products sold under Ralph's Bakery were the subject of a Canadian Food Inspection Agency food recall. Another situation that highlights how labeling errors can translate into genuine health risks. The recall involved multiple items, including hard dough bread, whole wheat bread, and spice buns across several package sizes. The core issue was undeclared milk. Like sesame, milk is also classified as a priority allergen in Canada, and companies have a legal obligation of mentioning it in the ingredients list. For individuals with milk allergies, even trace exposure can trigger lethal reactions. Because the ingredient was not listed, consumers had no way of identifying the risk and were left vulnerable. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency categorized the recall as a serious health concern and advised consumers to avoid the affected products. President's Choice. The flagship private label of Loblaw companies occupies a unique space between premium branding and mass market production realities. Nutritionally, many PC breads mirror standard commercial formulations, including refined flour bases, added sugars, sodium levels typical of packaged bread, and stabilizing additives. While these characteristics are not unusual, they may contradict consumer expectations tied to the brand's upscale image. Premium price doesn't always mean premium nutrition. Surprising, right? One historically documented concern involves Loblaw's parent company's role in a price-fixing scandal, a widely reported and legally resolved case. Although unrelated to product safety or ingredients, this is a relevant episode for consumers who are attentive to corporate ethics, pricing transparency, and overall trustworthiness. For shoppers, President's Choice Bread is as a reminder that store brand prestige does not automatically imply superior nutritional formulation or production differentiation, and that a careful review of fiber content, sodium levels, and ingredient lists remains essential. While Canada Bread is primarily known as a major bread producer, its history includes documented labor disputes and controversial treatment of employees that have drawn criticism from unions and worker advocates. In 2017, Canada Bread engaged in lockouts of its unionized workers in both British Columbia and Quebec during contract negotiations. A lockout is where management prevents workers from working during a labor dispute. This is a severe form of industrial action that places immense financial and emotional strain on workers and their families, leading them to struggle without income only because they tried seeking better working conditions or benefits. Not a food safety risk, but workers matter too. Earlier disputes also included accusations that subsidiaries like Multi-Marques withheld promised pension payments to long-serving employees, even after legal rulings compelled the company to pay. In one case, union representatives and workers organized protests and occupations of Canada Bread offices to demand the pension money owed to retirees. These episodes reflect ethical concerns about how a major Canadian bread producer has handled labor relations, worker rights, and their commitments to employees. If you aim to consume ethically alongside product safety, it's important to hold Canada Bread accountable for its workplace treatment. Products from Norma's Wholesome Bakery Limited were also the focus of a CFIA allergen alert when their banana bread was recalled due to undeclared milk. Milk is one of Canada's most strictly regulated allergens because dairy allergies can provoke severe immune reactions. For consumers with milk allergies, ingredient accuracy is an essential part of deciding what brand is safe to consume. Milk proteins can trigger reactions that escalate rapidly, making disclosure a critical safety requirement rather than a technical detail. Although no illnesses were reported, the recall underscores a broader truth about food safety. The absence of reported harm does not eliminate risk. Many consumers avoid allergens successfully because labeling regulations exist to prevent exposure before incidents occur. This case reminds viewers that bakery products that are often perceived as simple, traditional foods still subject to the same regulatory complexities as any packaged item. In late 2025, bread sold by Stickling's specialty bakery became the focus of a Canadian Food Inspection Agency recall, and this one also carried serious implications for a very specific group of consumers. The product was marketed as gluten-free low-carb bread, but was found to contain gluten nonetheless. For people with celiac disease or medically diagnosed gluten intolerance, it's anything but minor. Gluten exposure in these individuals can trigger immune reactions, intestinal damage, and a range of painful symptoms that go far beyond simple digestive discomfort. What makes this type of recall particularly concerning is the expectation gap. Consumers choosing gluten-free products aren't casually browsing. Many are making deliberate decisions based entirely on labeling accuracy. When gluten appears in a product explicitly labeled gluten-free, the label stops being marketing and becomes a safety failure from the company's end. Would you trust gluten-free labeling after this? The CFIA issued the recall after identifying the risk, advising consumers not to consume the affected bread. As with most allergen-related recalls, the danger lies not in the product's appearance, taste, or freshness, but in what the label failed to disclose. If you or anybody you know struggles with food allergies, this is a reality check to choose your go-to brands more carefully, because accuracy isn't optional for you and your loved ones, it's life protection. After discussing all brands you would want to avoid because of one reason or another, it is empirical to mention bread brands you should definitely choose. One excellent choice is Dempster's Whole Grains, specifically their 100% whole grains 12-grain bread. This bread is made with Canadian wheat flour and a blend of whole grains and seeds that provides a generous dose of fiber and essential nutrients per slice. With ingredients like flaxseed and sunflower seeds, it's a versatile loaf that works well for sandwiches, toast, or simply enjoying on its own. Because it's baked in Canada and uses locally sourced wheat, it supports Canadian agriculture and reduces the distance your food travels before it hits your plate. Another brand worth trying is Stone Mill Bakehouse, known for breads that emphasize simple, natural ingredients and traditional milling methods. Their range includes artisan-style whole grain and multi-grain breads that are denser, richer in flavor, and often higher in fiber, all qualities many nutrition experts recommend when comparing bread options. Now that you know the good, the risky, and the downright questionable breads in Canada, tell us in the comments which is going to be your next favorite. Choosing wisely isn't just about taste, it's about health and ethics. If you enjoyed this bread breakdown and want more tasty truths served straight up, hit that subscribe button and join our community, because missing out on this knowledge is the only thing half-baked here.